Ladies and gentlemen, they told you to wait. Wait until the timing is right. Wait until you feel ready. Wait until the world notices you. But here's the truth. If you keep waiting, your life will remain exactly as it is now. The gap between who you are and who you could be will never close unless you take responsibility for building that bridge. Most people are trapped, not because they lack talent, but because they keep looking outward, chasing approval, chasing comparisons, chasing everything except the one thing that can actually change their life, themselves. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about uncovering the raw, unpolished brilliance that's already within you and sharpening it until the world cannot ignore you. If you stay until the end, you will walk away with the blueprint to stop living on autopilot, to cut through the noise of doubt, and to unlock a version of yourself that you didn't even know existed. Not someday today. Everything you desire externally begins with the changes you commit to internally. This is the simple truth that most people overlook because they are too focused on rearranging the world around them while ignoring the world within them. We live in a society where the chase is always outward, chasing success, chasing recognition, chasing comfort, chasing relationships. Yet the foundation for all of these pursuits is not found outside. It is constructed within the chambers of your own mind, your own habits, your own character. Without inner change, even if you somehow stumble into outer success, it will be fragile, temporary, and easily lost. But when you focus on improving yourself from the inside out, you create a life that is rooted, unshakable, and magnetic to the opportunities you once chased. Self-improvement is not simply reading books or attending seminars. It is a commitment to re-engineering the way you live, think, and act. It is deciding that every flaw, every weakness, every destructive pattern is not a permanent mark of who you are, but a temporary condition waiting to be transformed. This mindset changes everything because it moves you from victimhood into ownership. You stop blaming circumstances, you stop resenting others for having what you don't, and you start realizing that the most powerful lever for change is already in your hands, your ability to grow. Think of it this way: your external life is a reflection, a mirror of your internal state. If the mirror shows a picture you do not like, breaking the mirror is pointless. You don't fix the reflection by scratching at the surface. You fix it by changing the original image. In the same way, trying to manipulate your environment without altering yourself will always lead you back to the same patterns, the same frustrations, the same cycles of disappointment. When you focus on improving yourself, the external results begin to shift almost automatically. Your confidence rises because you are keeping promises to yourself. Your decisions become sharper because they are not clouded by insecurity or fear. Your relationships improve because you are no longer trying to extract validation from them. You bring value instead of clinging to others for worth. Opportunities start appearing because you've become the kind of person who can see them, seize them, and handle them. This is the silent law of life. When you upgrade yourself, life upgrades with you. But you must understand this journey demands patience. Improvement is rarely an explosion. It is more often a slow burn. At first, you may not see much change. You will question whether your efforts are working. This is where most people give up. They want transformation without the quiet, unglamorous work that precedes it. They want the fruit without planting the seed. You cannot cheat this process. Just as the seasons take their time to shift, you must allow yourself the grace to evolve without the constant pressure of instant results. Every small act of self-improvement matters. When you read a few pages of a good book instead of scrolling endlessly, you are shaping your mind. When you choose a healthy meal over fast food, you are shaping your body. When you speak truth instead of bending to please, you are shaping your spirit. Over time, these small acts compound, and you wake up one day realizing you are not the same person you were a year ago. The change did not happen in one dramatic leap. It happened in 1,000 quiet steps, each one taken with intention. There will be moments when improving yourself feels lonely. This is because growth often requires you to separate from environments and people that no longer align with your direction. It will be uncomfortable to walk away from the familiar, but you must remember that comfort is the greatest enemy of transformation. Comfort keeps you repeating yesterday. Discomfort, as unwelcome as it feels, is the birthplace of your new self. Self-improvement is also not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming whole. Perfection is an illusion that keeps you paralyzed, afraid to take action because you might fail. Wholeness is different. It means you accept your flaws as works in progress, you embrace your strengths without arrogance, and you continue refining yourself because you know there is no final destination. You will never arrive because the journey itself is the destination. The goal is not to be flawless. The goal is to be better today than you were yesterday, and better tomorrow than you are today. The truth is, when you commit to improving yourself, you are making a decision that will affect every area of your life, your health, your relationships, your career, your inner peace. And this decision doesn't just benefit you. When you grow, you become an example, a source of light for others who are still searching. You show them through your own transformation that change is possible. You prove that circumstances are not destiny, that the past does not have to dictate the future. The greatest tragedy is not failing. It is living your entire life without ever meeting the version of yourself you could have been. That version exists right now, waiting in the shadows of your potential, watching to see if you will take the steps to bring it into reality. This is why focusing on self-improvement is not optional. It is essential. It is the foundation upon which every dream, every achievement, every lasting success is built. Without it, you are building castles on sand. With it, you are building something that will stand long after the storms pass. You have a choice: to drift through life reacting to whatever comes your way, or to take control and shape yourself into someone capable of creating the life you truly want. The first path is easy, but it ends in regret. The second is harder, but it ends in fulfillment. The difference lies in your willingness to start now, not tomorrow, not when life is easier, not when you feel ready. The path to unlocking your true potential begins the moment you decide to turn inward and do the work no one else can do for you. That decision will change everything. Your only real competition is the version of yourself from yesterday. This is a truth that sounds simple but holds a power most people never realize. The world will try to convince you that life is a race against others, that you must run faster, work harder, and achieve more than the person next to you. But the danger of this thinking is that it traps you in a constant cycle of comparison, where your worth is determined by someone else's progress. You begin measuring your life with a ruler that doesn't belong to you, and in doing so, you lose sight of the one person you were truly meant to surpass, yourself. When you stop competing with others, you take back your energy from the endless noise of envy and judgment. You no longer care who is ahead or behind, because you understand that they are running a completely different race. Their circumstances, opportunities, and challenges are unique to them, just as yours are unique to you. The only meaningful question becomes, am I better than I was yesterday? If the answer is yes, you are winning. If the answer is no, then your focus must shift, not on beating others, but on beating your own limitations. Competing with yourself is a quieter battle, but it is also the most relentless. It requires brutal honesty. You cannot hide from yourself. You cannot fake progress to the person staring back at you in the mirror. This kind of competition forces you to confront your own habits, your own fears, your own excuses. It is far easier to point out flaws in others than to dismantle your own weaknesses, but the latter is the path to real growth. When you measure yourself against others, you set moving targets. Someone will always have more money, more talent, more opportunities, or more recognition. The finish line will keep shifting, and you will never feel that you have arrived. But when you measure yourself against yesterday's version of you, the finish line is clear. You must simply take one more step forward than you did before. You might not run the fastest, but you will run consistently. And consistency is the true fuel of transformation. Think of this like climbing a mountain. If you keep looking at the climbers ahead of you, you'll either feel discouraged because they are higher or overconfident because you are ahead of someone else. Either way, your attention is misplaced. You will trip over your own feet. But when you focus on your own pace, your own footing, and take each step with intention, you eventually realize that the only thing that matters is reaching the summit in your own time. This mindset also protects you from one of the most dangerous traps, resentment. When your self-worth is tied to beating others, you can't truly celebrate their success. Someone else's victory becomes a reminder of your loss. But when you compete only with yourself, another person's achievement doesn't diminish you. It can even inspire you. You can applaud them without bitterness because their path does not interfere with yours. There's also another truth. You may sometimes be the slowest in the room, and that's fine. As long as you are faster than the person you were yesterday, you are still moving forward. Some seasons of life will allow for great leaps. Others will only offer small steps. But even the smallest step, if taken consistently, eventually covers miles. This is why self-comparison over time is the most reliable form of growth. You are not bound by anyone else's timeline, only your own. When you compete with yourself, you learn to value progress over perfection. You stop waiting until everything is just right before you act. Yesterday, you may have hesitated. Today, you act despite the uncertainty. Yesterday, you may have let fear decide. Today, you choose courage. These shifts might seem small in the moment, but over months and years, they completely reshape who you are. The competition becomes exciting because it is personal. It's a game where you can only win by becoming better. This approach also frees you from the exhausting need to prove yourself. You are no longer performing for an audience. You are performing for the mirror. And that mirror doesn't lie. It reflects the truth of your effort, discipline, and consistency. The scoreboard is internal, but the results inevitably show up externally. The job offer, the stronger body, the calmer mind, the healthier relationships, these are simply byproducts of beating yesterday's version of you day after day. It's important to remember that this form of competition is infinite. There is no final victory where you can declare, I've won. The self you are today will one day be the self you must surpass. It is a constant evolution, and that is the beauty of it. Life becomes a process of continual refinement, a sculptor endlessly chipping away at the stone to reveal a more complete masterpiece. You are never finished, but you are always improving. The danger of comparing yourself to others is that it breeds either arrogance or despair. If you are ahead of others, arrogance blinds you to the work still left to do. If you are behind, despair convinces you to stop trying altogether. Competing with yourself avoids both traps because there is no finish line except the one you set for yourself. There is always room to rise, always space to grow. Ask yourself each day, what can I do today that I couldn't do yesterday? It might be lifting a little heavier, running a little farther, reading a little more, speaking with more patience, or acting with more courage. These are the true victories, not in how you measure up to the world, but in how you measure up to your own past self. Because in the end, when your life comes to its final chapter, you won't care about who you beat along the way. You'll care about whether you became the fullest, truest version of yourself. And that version is born not by outpacing the world, but by outgrowing who you were yesterday again and again for as long as you are alive. Small daily improvements compound into extraordinary results over time. This is one of the simplest truths in life, yet it is also the most underestimated. People want transformation to be sudden and dramatic, as if a single moment of effort will instantly rewrite their destiny. But real, lasting change is rarely a lightning strike. It's more like the slow rising of the sun, gradual and almost unnoticeable until suddenly the world is bathed in light. We tend to overestimate what we can do in a day and underestimate what we can achieve in a year of consistent effort. That's because the human mind craves instant gratification. We want visible results to confirm that our work is worth it. But the most important work happens in silence, without applause, without immediate payoff. The seed you plant today will not bear fruit tomorrow. It must be watered, nurtured, and given time to grow roots deep enough to sustain it when the storms come. Consistency is the bridge between intention and transformation. It is not about how much you do in a single burst of energy, but how willing you are to show up again and again, even when it's not exciting, even when no one is watching, even when progress feels invisible. This is why so many people never reach their potential. They work hard for a week or a month, and then stop when results don't come fast enough. They forget that the law of compounding only rewards those who endure the slow, unseen stages of growth. Imagine a craftsman shaping a block of marble. Each day, he chips away a tiny fragment. At first, there's no visible change. It still looks like the same block. But day after day, the shape begins to emerge. And then, months later, people marvel at the statue, calling it a masterpiece. They don't see the thousands of small strikes that created it. They see only the final form. The same is true of your life. The world will only notice the end result, but that result is nothing more than the accumulation of small, consistent actions. The beauty of small improvements is that they are achievable. You don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight. You only have to be slightly better than you were yesterday. Read one more page. Exercise for 5 more minutes. Replace one unhealthy habit with a better one. These tiny steps might seem insignificant in isolation, but over months and years, they build a foundation so strong that it becomes impossible to ignore the transformation. This principle works in every area of life: skills, health, mindset, relationships, finances. If you save just a small amount of money regularly, it grows into something substantial over time. If you practice a skill daily, even for a short period, you'll eventually reach a level that feels unreachable to those who only practice sporadically. If you speak a little more kindly each day, your relationships deepen in ways you could never plan. The results are not immediate, but they are inevitable. There's another truth hidden in this principle. Consistency is a form of self-respect. Every time you show up for yourself, you reinforce the belief that you can be trusted to follow through. You strengthen your identity as someone who doesn't quit. This shift in identity is perhaps more powerful than the results themselves because it changes how you approach every challenge in life. You begin to see yourself as capable, disciplined, and reliable. And when you truly believe that about yourself, your actions naturally align with it. There will be days when you don't feel like showing up. This is inevitable. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is not that one group is always motivated. It's that they act even without motivation. Motivation may get you started, but discipline keeps you moving when motivation fades. Think of consistency like the slow drip of water on a stone. Each drop on its own is weak, but over time it can carve a path through solid rock. And here is where the magic of compounding becomes undeniable. The more progress you make, the more momentum you gain. At first, it feels like you're pushing a heavy boulder uphill, and every step is a struggle. But eventually, the boulder reaches a point where it begins to roll on its own. The results feed your motivation, which fuels even greater effort, which creates even better results. The process becomes self-sustaining, but it begins with the hard, thankless work at the start. What you must remember is that consistency is not perfection. You will miss days. You will stumble. You will fall short of your own standards. But the key is to return, to keep moving, to make missing a day the exception, not the rule. Progress is not about never failing. It's about refusing to stay down when you do. One day, without even realizing it, you'll cross an invisible line. You'll look back and see how far you've come, and the distance will shock you. The change will feel sudden, but it will only have been the result of all those quiet days when you kept going. And when people ask you for your secret, you'll know the truth. They're looking for a quick fix, a single moment of brilliance. But all you did was improve a little each day without stopping. This is the power of small daily improvements. They are the bricks that build the unshakable foundation of your future. They require patience, discipline, and faith in a process that doesn't reward you immediately. But if you commit to them, the results will not just be extraordinary, they will be inevitable. And when they arrive, you will know that they were not a gift from luck or chance, but the harvest of seeds you planted and nurtured every single day. True growth happens when you no longer depend on others' approval. As long as your worth is tied to the opinions, praise, or recognition of others, you will never truly be free. You will shape yourself to fit their expectations, chasing validation like a drug that offers only temporary relief. The moment it is withdrawn, you are left empty again, craving the next dose. This cycle can continue for a lifetime if you do not break it. From the earliest years, we are conditioned to seek approval, first from parents, then from teachers, peers, employers, and society at large. We are rewarded when we fit the mold, and subtly punished when we don't. Over time, the desire for external validation becomes so ingrained that we confuse it for self-worth. We mistake applause for value and criticism for failure. But when you live this way, you are not truly living for yourself. You are performing for an audience, hoping they will clap. The danger is that approval is unstable. It shifts with trends, moods, and perspectives that are completely outside your control. One day, people love you. The next, they turn away. If your identity depends on their acceptance, then your sense of self will rise and fall like the tide. This is why so many people feel lost when the applause stops. They have built their identity on something that was never theirs to own. Detaching from external validation is not about becoming indifferent or arrogant. It is about grounding your worth in something unshakable. Your own integrity, your own values, your own sense of purpose. When your compass is internal, the noise of approval and disapproval becomes just that, noise. It may be pleasant or unpleasant to hear, but it no longer determines the direction of your life. Imagine walking down a path. Along the way, some people cheer for you, others jeer at you, and some ignore you entirely. If you stop to respond to every reaction, you will never reach your destination. But if you know why you are walking, if you know where you are going, then the cheers won't make you dependent, and the jeers won't make you stop. You keep moving because your direction comes from within. One of the great benefits of detaching from validation is that it allows you to take risks and grow without fear. When you are dependent on approval, failure becomes terrifying because it threatens your image in the eyes of others. But when your worth is self-defined, failure becomes feedback, simply part of the process of becoming better. You no longer fear making mistakes because you no longer fear what others will think of you. This shift is liberating in every area of life. In relationships, you stop twisting yourself into someone you are not just to be liked. You begin to attract people who appreciate you for your authentic self, not the version you perform. In work, you stop chasing positions or titles simply because they will impress others. Instead, you choose what aligns with your strengths and passions. In personal growth, you stop hiding your struggles because you are no longer ashamed of being imperfect. The irony is that when you stop needing validation, you often receive more genuine respect. People are naturally drawn to those who are confident in who they are because self-assurance is rare and magnetic. But this respect is different from the fleeting approval you once chased. It is rooted in authenticity, and it doesn't require you to compromise yourself to maintain it. Letting go of external validation also means letting go of the need to explain yourself to everyone. Not everyone will understand your choices, and that is fine. Your life is not a committee decision. You are allowed to follow your own compass, even if the crowd is walking the other way. Some will criticize you for it, others will admire you for it, but neither opinion should dictate your path. This doesn't mean you should reject all feedback. Wisdom lies in discerning which voices are worth listening to. Constructive feedback from people who genuinely care about your growth is valuable. But even then, it is input, not instruction. You must weigh it against your own inner truth. The moment you give someone else the power to define you, you give them the power to destroy you. There will be moments when detaching from validation feels lonely. The approval you once relied on will no longer be there to comfort you. But in that space, something more valuable will grow, self-respect. You will learn to stand on your own, to affirm yourself without needing the world to echo it back. And in that independence, you will find a deep, quiet strength that cannot be taken from you. This is not an overnight change. The need for validation has been built over years, and breaking free from it requires patience and self-awareness. You will catch yourself seeking approval out of habit. You will feel the sting when someone disapproves. But over time, as you continue to act in alignment with your own values rather than the shifting demands of others, the grip of validation will loosen. You will reach a point where you can hear praise without becoming addicted to it, and hear criticism without being crushed by it. You will be able to appreciate both without letting either define you. That is when you will know you have grown, not just in skill or success, but in freedom. Because the truth is this: you cannot unlock your true potential if you are constantly waiting for permission to be yourself. The greatest things you will ever do may not be understood, applauded, or approved of in the moment. And that is fine. You are not here to please the world. You are here to live fully, to grow boldly, and to become the highest version of yourself. When you no longer depend on others' approval, you stop living as a reflection of their expectations. You become the source of your own light, and you no longer need anyone else to hold the lamp for you. That is where true growth begins. That is where freedom lives. Your thoughts shape your reality. Mastering them is the gateway to your potential. Everything you have ever done, achieved, or avoided began first as a thought. Every fear, every dream, every limitation, and every breakthrough exists first in the mind before it takes form in the physical world. This is why two people can face the exact same situation and walk away with completely different outcomes, because they are not experiencing life as it is, but life as they perceive it to be. Your mind is the filter through which you interpret every moment, and that filter can either work for you or against you. If your thoughts are filled with doubt, you will see reasons to quit. If they are filled with fear, you will see danger in every opportunity. If they are filled with possibility, you will find a way forward even when the path is unclear. The external world may be the same for everyone, but the inner world you create determines how you navigate it. The problem is that most people never consciously program their thoughts, they inherit them. From childhood, you absorb beliefs from parents, teachers, peers, and society. Some of these beliefs are empowering, but many are limiting. You might have been told you're not smart enough, not talented enough, not capable of certain things. Over time, these words become the quiet voice in your head, whispering doubt every time you try to step beyond what is familiar. And because you've heard it so long, you mistake it for truth. To unlock your potential, you must reprogram your mind, replacing inherited limitations with deliberate, empowering beliefs. This is not wishful thinking. It is the disciplined practice of choosing what thoughts to feed and what thoughts to starve. Your mind will always produce ideas, fears, and interpretations, but you have the power to decide which ones to entertain and which ones to dismiss. Consider how a gardener treats weeds. The weeds are not evil. They are simply plants growing where they don't belong. But if left unchecked, they overtake the garden and choke the life from what you want to grow. Your negative, limiting thoughts are the same. You cannot stop them from appearing, but you can refuse to let them spread. You pull them out, replace them with seeds of possibility, and nurture those instead. Over time, the garden of your mind becomes fertile ground for growth. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is to change your self-talk. The words you repeat to yourself daily are not harmless. They are programming instructions for your brain. If you constantly tell yourself, "I can't do this," your mind will search for evidence to confirm it. If you say, "I will figure it out," your mind begins searching for solutions instead of problems. Your brain is always listening, always recording, always obeying the commands you give it. Reprogramming your mindset also means learning to interpret challenges differently. Most people see obstacles as a signal to stop, but the mind trained for growth sees them as opportunities to adapt. This doesn't mean ignoring difficulties. It means approaching them from a perspective of problem solving rather than defeat. When you master your thoughts, you understand that circumstances are not the ultimate determinant of your future. Your interpretation and response to those circumstances are. Visualization is another tool for mental reprogramming. The brain cannot fully distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and real ones. This means that by repeatedly imagining yourself succeeding, acting with confidence, and overcoming challenges, you train your mind to believe those outcomes are possible. This belief shapes your actions, and your actions shape your reality. It is not magic. It is mental conditioning. Athletes, entrepreneurs, and artists have used this method for decades to push beyond limits and achieve extraordinary results. But mental mastery is not achieved overnight. Your current mindset is the result of years, perhaps decades, of unconscious programming. Rewriting it requires patience, consistency, and self-awareness. You will catch yourself thinking old thoughts, falling into old patterns of doubt or fear. This is not failure. It is simply evidence of the old programming at work. Each time you redirect your thoughts, you weaken that old wiring and strengthen the new. Meditation, journaling, and mindfulness are practical ways to gain awareness of your thoughts. Most people live on autopilot, unaware of the constant stream of beliefs shaping their choices. By observing your thoughts without judgment, you create space between stimulus and response. In that space, you have the power to choose a better thought, a better belief, a better story. This is how change begins, not by forcing yourself to never think negatively, but by becoming aware enough to choose differently when you do. Once you begin mastering your thoughts, the world around you starts to shift in ways that feel almost miraculous. Opportunities appear where before you saw none. Solutions emerge where before there were only problems. You begin meeting people who align with your vision, not because the universe suddenly changed, but because you tuned your mind to recognize and attract what was always there. The truth is, your mind is the most powerful tool you will ever have, but it can also be your greatest enemy if left unmanaged. If you allow it to run on default programming filled with fear, doubt, and limitation, it will quietly sabotage your every effort. But if you take control, feed it with empowering beliefs, and train it to see possibility where others see impossibility, there is no limit to what you can achieve. Mastering your thoughts does not mean controlling every single idea that enters your head. It means controlling what stays. It means refusing to give energy to thoughts that shrink you and intentionally nurturing thoughts that expand you. When you live this way, your reality begins to reflect the higher vision you hold for yourself. Your external life is a mirror of your internal world. If you want to change what you see in the mirror, you must first change the image you project. That is why mastering your mind is not just part of the journey to your potential. It is the gateway through which you must pass to reach it. Once you step through, nothing will ever look the same again. Discipline keeps you moving forward when motivation fades. Motivation is like a spark. It flares up brightly, giving you a rush of energy, but it rarely lasts long enough to carry you through the full journey. Anyone can feel motivated in the beginning, when an idea is fresh, when the vision is clear, and the path seems exciting. But inevitably, the novelty wears off. The work becomes routine. Obstacles appear. Progress slows. And in those moments, motivation alone is not enough to keep you going. That is where discipline takes over. Discipline is the steady force that pushes you to act, even when you don't feel like it. It is the decision to honor your commitments to yourself, regardless of your mood. Where motivation is emotional, discipline is intentional. It doesn't ask you if you feel ready. It tells you to do the work because it needs to be done. It doesn't rely on inspiration. It relies on consistency. And that consistency is what builds momentum, progress, and eventually mastery. The truth is, discipline is less glamorous than motivation. Motivation comes with a rush of adrenaline, the excitement of possibility. Discipline comes with early mornings, repeated efforts, and quiet persistence when no one is watching. But while motivation may get you started, discipline is what ensures you finish. It is the bridge between intention and accomplishment. Without it, even the brightest ideas and most inspiring dreams dissolve into nothing more than wishful thinking. Think of it like building a muscle. If you only work out when you feel motivated, you'll skip most of your training days. But if you show up because you've made a commitment, even on the days you're tired or distracted, your body will adapt and grow stronger. The same is true for your skills, your mindset, and your goals. Each disciplined action compounds over time, creating results that motivation alone could never sustain. One of the most misunderstood aspects of discipline is that it is not about being harsh or punishing yourself. True discipline is an act of self-respect. It is a way of saying, I value my growth enough to keep showing up for it, no matter how I feel in the moment. It is the recognition that your future self depends on the choices you make today. Every time you follow through on your commitments, you reinforce trust in yourself. You prove that you can rely on your own word. It's also important to understand that discipline is built, not born. No one starts with unshakable willpower. At first, it's uncomfortable. Your mind will offer every excuse to avoid the work. You'll hear the voice that says, you can skip it just this once. And that is the moment where discipline grows strongest, when you choose action over avoidance. The more you make that choice, the more automatic it becomes. Eventually, doing the work becomes part of your identity, not something you have to negotiate with yourself about every day. A useful way to cultivate discipline is to lower the barrier to action. Many people fail not because the task is too hard, but because they expect themselves to leap from zero to perfection in one step. Discipline thrives when you break the work into small, manageable actions and commit to them consistently. It's easier to build a daily writing habit by committing to 1 page a day than by demanding a novel in a month. It's easier to start exercising by committing to 15 minutes than by forcing yourself into exhausting 2-hour sessions from the start. Small steps, done regularly, create more progress than big efforts done occasionally. Discipline also requires clarity. You can't be disciplined about something vague. If your goal is to get healthier, it's too abstract to act on consistently. But if you commit to walking 10,000 steps a day or to eating vegetables with every meal, you have a clear action to follow. The clearer your plan, the easier it is to practice discipline. Without clarity, you're relying on willpower to figure things out every day, and willpower alone is unreliable. Another key to sustaining discipline is to separate your identity from your feelings. You may feel unmotivated, tired, or uninspired, but that doesn't mean you are the kind of person who skips commitments. Instead, see yourself as someone who shows up regardless. This shift from I'll do it when I feel like it to I'll do it because it's who I am is the foundation of lasting discipline. It's worth noting that discipline is not about doing everything all the time. It's about doing the right things consistently. You must be selective with your commitments. Overloading yourself with too many goals will lead to burnout, and burnout erodes discipline. Choose the areas that matter most and give them your consistent attention. Let go of the rest or delegate them if possible. Over time, discipline begins to create something powerful, self-momentum. The more you keep your commitments, the more confidence you build. That confidence fuels further action, and the cycle repeats. Eventually, you reach a point where discipline doesn't feel like a burden, it feels like freedom. You no longer depend on fleeting motivation, external validation, or ideal circumstances to move forward. You simply move because moving forward is what you do. The greatest rewards of discipline are rarely visible in the moment. The benefits reveal themselves months or years later when you look back and realize how far you've come, not because you were inspired every day, but because you were inspired every day, but because you kept showing up. You'll see that the breakthroughs didn't happen in bursts of motivation, but in the quiet, repeated decisions to keep going when it would have been easier to stop. Motivation is the invitation, but discipline is the acceptance. Motivation asks you to dream. Discipline ensures you live those dreams into reality. If you want to unlock your true potential, you must learn to act not only when you feel like it, but especially when you don't, because that is the moment when growth is forged. That is the moment that defines who you will become. Failure is not the end of the road, it is part of the road. Every person who has achieved anything worthwhile has stumbled, fallen, and faced moments when quitting seemed easier than continuing. The difference between those who rise and those who remain stuck is not the absence of failure, but the way they respond to it. When you begin to see failure not as a verdict, but as a teacher, you unlock a level of growth that success alone can never give you. Failure has a way of stripping away illusions. It shows you what doesn't work, where you are unprepared, and what needs to change. It forces you to confront the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Most people see this as a reason to stop. The discomfort is too much, the sting too sharp. But those who see failure as feedback view it differently. They see it as a necessary step in refining their skills, deepening their resilience, and clarifying their path. The reason failure is such a powerful teacher is that it bypasses theory and delivers truth through experience. You can read 100 books about swimming, but until you get into the water and struggle, you don't truly learn how to move through it. Likewise, you can plan every step of a project, but until you encounter the obstacles firsthand, you won't know what truly needs to be improved. Failure gives you that first-hand knowledge, raw, unfiltered, and often uncomfortable, but invaluable. It's easy to forget that most great successes are built on a foundation of failed attempts. The best athletes, artists, innovators, and leaders have stories filled with rejection, mistakes, and setbacks. Thomas Edison tested thousands of designs before creating a working light bulb. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. J.K. Rowling's first Harry Potter manuscript was rejected by multiple publishers. Each of these stories could have ended early if the person involved saw failure as final. Instead, they treated each setback as a lesson and adjusted their approach until they succeeded. One of the reasons people fear failure is that they attach it to their identity. They believe that if they fail, it means they are a failure. This is one of the most damaging mental traps you can fall into. A failed attempt is simply an event, not a definition of who you are. The truth is, the only way to completely avoid failure is to avoid trying anything new. But avoiding failure also means avoiding growth. And without growth, you remain exactly where you are. Reframing failure begins with asking better questions. Instead of, why did this happen to me? Ask, what is this teaching me? Instead of what went wrong, ask, what can I do differently next time? This shifts your focus from blame to learning, from self-pity to self-improvement. The pain of failure becomes bearable when you realize it carries a gift, a lesson that success could not have revealed to you. There is also a deeper benefit to failure. It builds character. Success can be intoxicating. It can make you believe you are invincible. Failure humbles you, reminding you that there is always more to learn. It forces you to confront your weaknesses, develop patience, and cultivate persistence. These qualities are often more valuable than the success you are chasing. because they prepare you to handle even greater challenges in the future. Embracing failure does not mean seeking it recklessly. It means being willing to take risks knowing that you might stumble and having the humility to learn when you do. It also means failing small and failing often, testing ideas, taking action, gathering feedback so that your failures become stepping stones instead of walls. Each time you fail in this way, you gain experience without letting the setback destroy your momentum. Another important element of learning from failure is self-compassion. Many people become their own harshest critics, tearing themselves down after a mistake. But berating yourself does not lead to growth. It only deepens fear and hesitation. Instead, speak to yourself the way you would to a friend who is learning something new, with encouragement, patience, and a reminder that missteps are part of the process. When you approach failure this way, something remarkable happens. Your fear of it begins to fade. You no longer see it as a threat, but as a signal that you are stretching beyond your comfort zone. You begin to recognize that failure is not the opposite of success. It is often the path to it. The very experiences you once dreaded become the experiences you treasure, because they shaped you into someone more capable, more adaptable, and more prepared than you were before. The truth is, every failure leaves you with a choice. You can allow it to close you down, convincing you to lower your ambitions and shrink your life. Or you can use it as fuel, extracting its lessons and applying them to your next attempt. The latter choice is what transforms failure from something to fear into something to value. Failure is not a sign you are on the wrong path. It is a sign you are moving. You are testing, trying, learning, and evolving. The people who achieve great things are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who fail forward, using each setback as a stepping stone toward their vision. When you embrace failure as a teacher, you realize that it does not diminish your worth. It strengthens it. It makes you sharper, wiser, and more resilient. And perhaps most importantly, it gives you the courage to keep going, knowing that even if you fall again, you will rise each time stronger than before. The people you spend time with, the environments you immerse yourself in, and the habits you cultivate form the invisible architecture of your life. They shape your mindset, influence your decisions, and either accelerate or hinder your growth. You may think your progress depends only on your own willpower, but in reality, the energy you surround yourself with is just as critical. If you want to unlock your true potential, you must be deliberate about the company you keep and the spaces you inhabit. We often underestimate how deeply we are influenced by those around us. Humans are social creatures. Our thoughts, behaviors, and even our sense of what is possible are molded by the people we interact with regularly. Spend enough time around individuals who complain, procrastinate, and avoid responsibility, and you will find yourself adopting similar patterns without even realizing it. In contrast, spend time with those who are driven, curious, and committed to growth, and their mindset begins to rub off on you. Even the smallest details, the books on your shelf, the music you listen to, the media you consume, become part of the mental ecosystem you operate in. If you fill that ecosystem with distractions, negativity, and noise, your progress will slow. But if you fill it with tools, ideas, and influences that align with your goals, you create fertile ground for growth. Habits are another form of environment, an internal one. Their ambition becomes a mirror, reflecting back your own capacity to do more and be more. It's not just about finding people who are successful in the conventional sense. It's about surrounding yourself with those who challenge you to think bigger, who hold you accountable to your highest standards, and who inspire you by the way they live, not just by what they say. Sometimes these people will encourage you gently. Other times they will call you out when you are slipping. Both are forms of growth energy, because true support isn't about making you comfortable. It's about helping you expand. The same principle applies to your environment. Your surroundings either energize you or drain you. A cluttered, chaotic space can leave your mind feeling equally disorganized while a clean, intentional environment can foster focus and clarity. The things you repeatedly do become the atmosphere of your daily life. Just as a plant can only thrive in the right soil, you can only thrive in the right patterns of action. If your habits align with your aspirations, you are constantly reinforcing your momentum. If they don't, you are constantly undermining yourself. The people you are around can either reinforce or disrupt those habits, making them easier or harder to maintain. One of the most transformative shifts you can make is to consciously curate your circle. This doesn't mean cutting everyone out who doesn't fit some perfect mold. It means being intentional about where you spend the majority of your time and energy. There are people who lift you higher and people who weigh you down. There are environments that stretch your vision and environments that shrink it. The more time you spend in uplifting company and stimulating spaces, the more natural self-improvement becomes. This requires honesty. You must be willing to assess whether the people around you truly want the best for you, or if they prefer you to stay the same because it makes them feel more comfortable. Growth can sometimes make others uncomfortable, especially if it challenges them to confront their own stagnation. In such cases, you must remember that your evolution is not a betrayal, it is a necessity. You are not responsible for dimming your light to make others feel at ease. The beauty of surrounding yourself with growth energy is that it creates a self-reinforcing loop. The more you're around people who are striving, learning, and expanding, the more inspired you are to do the same. The more you take action and improve yourself, the more you attract people who resonate with that energy. Over time, your environment stops being a passive background and becomes an active force pulling you forward. There will be times when you cannot fully control your external surroundings. You may work in a place with negative energy or live in an environment that doesn't reflect your aspirations. In those moments, you must create micro-environments of growth within your control. Whether it's through the content you consume, the conversations you choose to engage in, or the time you dedicate to self-development outside of those spaces. Even a single daily habit, like reading for 20 minutes or journaling your goals, can serve as a pocket of positive influence in an otherwise stagnant environment. There's also a subtle truth here. Sometimes the person you most need to surround yourself with is your future self. By envisioning the person you want to become in vivid detail and then asking, what kind of environment would they thrive in? Who would they spend time with? What habits would they keep? You can begin shaping your current reality to match that vision. Over time, the gap between who you are and who you want to be begins to close, because you've aligned your surroundings with your aspirations. When you look at the people who have made extraordinary progress in their lives, you will notice a common thread. They are intentional about their environment. They don't leave it to chance. They seek mentors, peers, and communities that challenge and inspire them. They curate spaces, both physical and mental, that keep them focused. And they remove or limit influences that pull them away from their goals. Unlocking your true potential is not only about what you do internally, it's also about the energy you allow around you. If you choose your company, your environment, and your habits with care, you create conditions where growth is the natural outcome. You stop fighting against the current, because everything around you is flowing in the same direction you want to go. That is when improvement becomes not just an effort, but a way of life. Most people treat their ideal self as a distant destination, something they will become one day when the stars align, when they have more money, when they feel ready, when circumstances are perfect. But the truth is, the gap between who you are and who you want to be doesn't close by waiting for the right moment. It closes by choosing here and now to live as that higher version of yourself before the world confirms it. The transformation happens not when you arrive, but when you decide to embody the mindset, habits, and presence of the person you aspire to become. This is not pretending. Pretending is hollow. It's putting on a mask to fool others. Living as your higher self is different. It's aligning your daily actions with the vision you have for your future, even before the external rewards show up. If your higher self is disciplined, start being disciplined today. If your higher self carries themselves with confidence, speak and move that way now. If your higher self spends their time on purposeful work instead of distractions, begin making those choices today. You are not waiting for permission. You are giving it to yourself. When you start living this way, something remarkable happens. Your reality begins to catch up. The external world tends to reflect the identity you consistently embody. If you act like someone who takes care of their health, you begin to naturally attract a healthier lifestyle. If you act like someone who takes care of their health, you begin to naturally attract a healthier lifestyle. The reverse is also true. If you constantly act in ways that contradict your vision, you reinforce the version of yourself you're trying to outgrow. The reason most people hesitate to step into their higher self now is fear. They fear being seen as a fraud. They fear the discomfort of change. They fear losing the comfort of familiar habits, even when those habits keep them stuck. But growth always requires crossing that threshold of discomfort. If you want to be your higher self, you have to be willing to feel a little out of place at first, because you are stepping into a space you haven't fully inhabited before. It's like moving into a larger home. You have to grow into it. It's important to realize that your higher self is not some abstract, unreachable ideal. It's simply the most aligned, intentional version of you, living according to your values, making choices that reflect your deepest priorities, and refusing to settle for less than the life you know you can create. This version of you already exists in potential form. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, courage over fear, and intention over autopilot, you strengthen the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. You don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight to live this way. In fact, starting small is often more powerful. Ask yourself, if I were already living as my highest self, what would I do in this situation? Then act accordingly. Maybe it means getting up earlier to work on your goals. Maybe it means declining an invitation that pulls you away from your priorities. Maybe it means speaking up in a meeting instead of staying quiet. Every small action in alignment with your higher self compounds over time, creating momentum that is impossible to ignore. Another key part of this process is to let go of the old identity that no longer serves you. Too often, people cling to their past because it feels safe, even when it holds them back. You cannot step into your future while dragging the weight of old beliefs, habits, and self-doubt behind you. Living as your higher self means being willing to shed what no longer fits, like outgrowing a set of clothes that once felt comfortable but now restricts your movement. You must also learn to hold your vision with certainty, even when your current reality doesn't yet match it. This is where most people give up. They act like their higher self for a week or a month. And when the external results don't appear instantly, they retreat back to old habits. But lasting change requires faith in the process. The farmer does not dig up the seeds every day to check if they're growing. They plant, water, and tend to them, knowing that growth is happening beneath the surface. You must treat your higher self the same way. Consistent action will eventually bring your reality into alignment. One powerful exercise is to imagine a day in the life of your highest self in vivid detail. What time do they wake up? How do they move through their morning? What kinds of conversations do they have? How do they handle challenges? What do they focus on before they go to sleep? Once you have that clarity, begin adopting those elements into your current life. At first, it may feel like you're playing the part, but in reality, you're training your mind and body to operate at a higher standard. The beauty of this approach is that you don't have to wait for anyone's approval. You don't have to wait for the promotion, the recognition, or the perfect conditions. You can choose right now to live as if you already are the person you want to be. And in doing so, you dissolve the imaginary distance between the present and the future. Your potential stops being a dream and starts being your reality. Living as your higher self now is an act of self-respect. It is declaring, through your actions, that you believe you are worthy of the life you envision. You stop postponing your greatness for some hypothetical someday and begin creating it today. Over time, the line between who I want to be and who I am disappears, because you have become that person, not through waiting, but through living. When you commit to this way of being, you find that the external markers of success, opportunities, relationships, achievements begin to appear naturally. But the real reward is internal. You feel a sense of alignment, clarity, and confidence that no external validation can match. You realize you are no longer chasing your potential, you are living it. And that is the most powerful transformation of all. Here we are at the edge of choice. Everything we've spoken about comes down to this moment, because no amount of insight means anything unless it moves you to act. You now understand that self-improvement is not a destination, but a continual unfolding, that your only true competitor is the person you were yesterday, that consistent effort will quietly transform you while the world is looking elsewhere, that validation from others is fleeting. But the respect you build within yourself lasts, that your thoughts are not mere whispers, but architects of your reality. That discipline will carry you when motivation abandons you. That failure is not the end, but the forge where resilience is made. That the people, environments, and habits you choose will either lift you higher or hold you down, and that the version of yourself you long to become is not waiting for you in some distant future. It is here, waiting for you to step into it now. The temptation will be to hear these words, feel a flicker of inspiration, and then return to the comfortable rhythm of the familiar. But comfort is a slow suffocation. Growth demands that you trade the known for the possible, that you walk willingly into the discomfort where transformation lives. And the truth is, you are ready, not because everything is perfect, but because the decision to start is the only perfection you need as you leave this space. Do not ask, when will I become my best self? Ask instead, how can I live as them today? Take one step, then another and another, until your actions write the story your heart has been trying to tell all along. The world does not need a copy of someone else. It needs the fullest, boldest, most unapologetic version of you. And the only person who can bring that into existence is you, starting now.